Taylor is calling Justin a with a tiny violin.
Hundreds of documents just got unredacted, and oh my goodness, this doesn't look good for Blake Lively or Taylor Swift.
New text messages from a close friend of actress Blake Lively, who also happens to be one of the world's biggest stars, have been unsealed in the court battle between Lively and her It Ends With Us co-star and director
Blake Lively and Taylor Swift are facing major backlash after private text messages were exposed to the world, revealing a side of the story no one saw coming and shedding light on truths many never expected to surface.
With that screen cap, she said, quote, "I think this B knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin."
Court documents in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni legal battle have just been unredacted, and what's emerging could be the biggest celebrity PR disaster of the decade. Two of Hollywood's most admired figures are now under serious scrutiny, and honestly, the texts speak for themselves.
The new documents feature messages sent between Lively and pop star Taylor Swift. In the text, Swift appears to call Baldoni expletive.
What began as a simple he said, she said dispute surrounding the It Ends With Us production has evolved into something far darker. Newly unsealed documents point to a carefully orchestrated campaign involving powerful industry players, calculated moves behind the scenes, and manipulation so blatant it would make Machiavelli blush.
And Lively seems to ask for Swift's endorsement in making script changes to the movie.
These are no longer just accusations. They are documented facts, mutually agreed upon by both legal teams in what's known as a statement of undisputed facts. Blake's handling of creative disagreements with her director is nothing short of shocking. On April 12, 2023, she reached out to Taylor Swift for help, and that's where the story takes a dramatic turn.
And what's really telling to me is just the way she's speaking about Justin. She's not using words like he's a predator or an abuser or, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable around him, I need your help. No, she's making fun of him.
She called Justin Baldoni a doofus director and mocked him as a clown who suddenly thinks he's a writer. That wording matters. It isn't the language of someone who feels uncomfortable, unsafe, or harassed. It's the language of someone asserting superiority, talking down to another person rather than expressing fear or distress. When someone truly experiences workplace harassment, their descriptions usually reflect concern or vulnerability, not ridicule and dismissal.
This is their communication around a rewrite of the script. It Ends With Us. And so in another message, what we see here is Lively asking Swift to endorse that script change that she'd wanted. The message was apparently allegedly sent while Swift was on her way to Lively's house, and Baldoni was there as well.
What Blake Lively asked Taylor Swift to do next is where everything escalates. She reportedly wanted Taylor to come to her penthouse while Baldoni was still present and publicly support a revised script, one Taylor didn't even need to read. Pause on that for a moment. This wasn't about offering creative input. It was about using presence and influence to validate a version of events without knowledge or context.
Asked Swift to endorse the revised script she was proposing even without having read it. You don't have to read it, of course.
In effect, Blake was asking one of the most famous musicians in the world to show up and praise pages she may not have even looked at. The objective wasn't subtle. The goal was to intimidate Baldoni into accepting Blake's version of the script by overwhelming him with celebrity power. This wasn't collaboration, it was pressure, applied strategically.
And I sent Taylor the script on her way to my apartment because Justin was still there, and I asked her to read them. I told her she didn't have to. I didn't want her to feel pressured to do that, but I hoped she would.
Taylor's response makes the situation even more revealing. Her text to Blake reportedly said, "I'll do anything for you." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Are you safe?" Just unquestioned loyalty. Swift then showed up at Lively's apartment and played her role exactly as expected. According to later messages, Blake thanked Taylor by praising how epically heroic she had been, openly admitting that Baldoni was falling for it, even while resisting. That acknowledgement alone raises serious red flags about intent.
Taylor Swift calls actor and director Justin Baldoni the B word, but here's how she said it. And she had posted this article, screen capped it, and sent it to her friend.
Reading between those lines is unsettling. Blake wasn't describing advocacy or protection. She was celebrating manipulation. She acknowledged that Baldoni was resisting, yet framed the situation as a win anyway. This wasn't about addressing legitimate concerns or ensuring safety. It was calculated intimidation, carefully disguised as creative collaboration and justified through fame.
This is just revealing so much of what Blake actually feels about Justin, and in no way do I feel like it's uncomfortable. I feel like she thinks she's better than him, and it's shocking.
The texts become even more alarming when Blake framed her inner circle as power enforcers. She compared herself to Daenerys Targaryen, with Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift cast as her dragons. In one message, she told Baldoni that everyone benefits from her relationships with Reynolds and Swift, and that he would too. That doesn't read like teamwork. It sounds like a veiled threat. Comply or face the influence of people far more powerful than you.
Lively responded, "You are so right. He should have run from your music. How stupid."
Fast forward to April 26, 2024, and the texts show Blake and Taylor actively strategizing about using Swift's music in the film's trailer. Taylor reportedly texted that if Justin were being strategic, he would refuse Taylor Swift's music, because it would give Blake more power over the film. She even pointed out that Taylor was Blake's ally, not his. Blake agreed, responding that Justin should have run from Taylor's music and calling him stupid for missing what she described as his only chance to maintain the appearance of an upper hand. This wasn't creative brainstorming, it was open discussion about leverage and power dynamics.
I'll benefit from the relationship with Ryan and Swift, and you will too, I can promise you. Look, she's confirming she said it, and she's trying to play it like, oh, well, no, it didn't read that way. I was saying this could help everybody. Come on, don't just pick and choose it here.
They were literally discussing how to weaponize Taylor's celebrity status against the director. And here's the part that raises even more questions. Blake later disclosed that her husband, Ryan Reynolds, actually wrote the revised version of the rooftop scene. That detail completely reframes the situation and sheds new light on how much outside influence was being injected into the project.
Let's then list alleged issues regarding wardrobe. They claim, quote, and this is from the docs, Blake started spending on her own and changed the whole wardrobe, no regard as to how this affected production. On script changes, the notes allege, every page she had her fingerprint on.
So let's be clear about what that means. Blake brought in one of Hollywood's biggest stars to rewrite parts of the film without the director's initial knowledge or approval. Then she used another A-list celebrity to pressure the director into accepting those changes. That's not collaboration. That's not creative teamwork. That's a hostile takeover dressed up as artistic input.
And then the filing presents alleged private messages from Ryan Reynolds that show, or appear to show, the intense personal feelings that were involved here.
And the involvement didn't stop there. Blake also pulled Matt Damon, Luciana Damon, Ben Affleck, and Bradley Cooper into the situation, telling them she had rewritten and restructured the entire script and effectively directed every actor herself. She even described Baldoni to Ben Affleck as a chaotic clown, saying she had to direct the movie through him. Again, where are the allegations of harassment? Where are the safety concerns? What's actually being described is someone who believes they're too important to work with a director they view as beneath them.
Reynolds is allegedly messaging Matt and Lucy Damon to ask for their support for Lively's cut of the film.
And now would be a good time to stay with this story because it gets even messier. Documents reveal that Taylor was involved in discussions about a forthcoming New York Times article before it was ever published. On December 4th and 5th, Blake and Taylor were already talking about the piece that would eventually drop on December 20th. That timing raises serious questions about coordination, intent, and how much of this narrative was being shaped behind the scenes.
According to the filing, it seems that Swift sent Lively a screenshot of a news article about Baldoni with this message, quote, I think this B knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin.
Taylor reportedly sent Blake a link to a People magazine article in which Baldoni spoke openly about being sexually traumatized by an ex-girlfriend. Blake's response was chilling. She allegedly wrote that she thought this B word knew something was coming and had taken out his tiny violin. That message isn't ambiguous. It's dismissive, cruel, and openly mocking someone else's disclosure of sexual trauma.
Now, Swift's apparent next message, according to the filing, is he needs to be beaten by his own words. Lively allegedly replies, everyone weighs in before he responds to a text, writes an email, or trims his hair. It's wild, everyone participates. And then the filing seems to show Lively's apparent text.
That single text is deeply problematic on multiple levels. It mocks sexual trauma, signals advance awareness of an incoming media attack, and places Taylor squarely inside what looks like a coordinated PR effort. When Blake later asked if everything was on track, Taylor reportedly replied, "Oh yes." A week later, but as the message suggested, worth the wait, and just 2 weeks after that exchange, Blake filed her complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. The timeline alone raises serious questions.
So this is important because previously what we've seen and heard from Baldoni is him saying, look, I was pressured by not just Taylor Swift and Blake Lively, but also by Blake Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds. So
at best, the timing is suspicious. At worst, it suggests coordination. The overlap between Blake, Taylor, and the New York Times points away from a spontaneous act of courage and toward a carefully planned media offensive, complete with strategic leaks, celebrity amplification, and controlled messaging. Baldoni's team reportedly had little to no opportunity to respond before publication, adding yet another layer of calculated pressure to an already unbalanced situation.
On May 30th, Josh Greenstein, the president of Sony, informed Lively that Baldoni's cut scored higher than Lively's in audience testing. Baldoni's cut was better to the audience.
What makes Taylor's involvement particularly troubling is that her spokesperson initially claimed she had no role in It Ends With Us beyond licensing a song for the soundtrack. But the documented evidence tells a different story. She attended script-related meetings, discussed trailer strategy, participated in PR conversations, and received updates about legal filings. That's not passive musical involvement. That's active participation in a broader campaign.
But your last few, I felt like I was reading a mass corporate email sent to 200 employees. You said the word "we" like 18 times, and it feels awful to be in any way critical of any way you process what you've been going through, but
Blake's conduct toward others on the production only reinforces these concerns. When Sony president Josh Greenstein informed her that Baldoni's cut of the film tested better with audiences than hers, she dismissed the data outright. She reportedly told him that after speaking with Colleen Hoover, they were moving forward with her cut regardless, and then casually added Taylor's name as part of that decision. Taylor held no official production role, yet her name was repeatedly used as leverage. Blake appears to have weaponized her celebrity relationships like chess pieces, overriding data, process, and professional boundaries. That isn't collaboration. That's tyrannical behavior disguised as creative authority.
Apparently, Taylor Swift made a text, allegedly. Can you believe she just called and was like, this PR chick wants to get info to Blake? So Taylor was aware of this too. Taylor was looped in at that point as well.
The involvement of Baldoni's former publicist, Stephanie Jones, adds yet another troubling layer to this story. In August 2024, Jones reportedly connected with Blake Lively through a mutual acquaintance to share information she had obtained from publicist Jennifer Abel's personal phone. Taylor Swift was aware of this as well, even texting Blake about the call. That means Taylor knew about potential evidence sharing, legal maneuvering, and media coordination. Throughout all these exchanges, what's striking is what isn't there. Blake never texts that she feels unsafe, never describes unwanted behavior, and never asks for help dealing with harassment. Instead, she mocks Baldoni, celebrates manipulating him, and strategizes about taking creative control.
Now, the conversation, as presented in the filing, continues with Lively apparently texting. Can you imagine feeling as confident as these predators that you're going to always get away with it? Him accepting an award as an ally for women, and Scooter going about the world with his head held high, meaning seemingly Scooter Braun.
That disconnect between Blake's public allegations and her private communications is massive. In her lawsuit, she accuses Baldoni of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. Yet in private texts, she calls him a doofus, a clown, and stupid. She brags about directing the movie around him and openly uses celebrity friends as leverage. Those aren't the actions of someone who feels victimized. They're the actions of someone who feels superior and entitled. What makes this especially troubling is how behavior like this undermines legitimate claims of workplace harassment, making it harder for real victims to be taken seriously.
What was happening? So there's this message from Blake Lively where she goes, "Hey, just checking in. I have no reason to ask, but I don't know. I've been feeling like I should. Is everything okay?" And Taylor responds, there's a longer message, but Taylor then responds, "No, you're not wrong."
Taylor Swift's role is equally damaging to her public image. She has long positioned herself as above Hollywood messiness, building a brand around loyalty, authenticity, and supporting other women. Yet, the texts suggest she actively participated in a calculated effort to damage someone's career. Mocking sexual trauma, fabricating endorsements, and coordinating media pressure don't align with that image. The lingering question is why Taylor later distanced herself from Blake if they were so aligned behind the scenes. Was it reputation management, fear of exposure, or a private fallout? Whatever the reason, the texts are public now, and they tell a story that's hard to ignore.
Have been feeling a little bit of a shift in the way you talk to me. Yes, there's been a lot of the Justin stuff, but I've been through things like this before.
Blake's legal team is now attempting to dispute context while admitting the texts themselves are real. Their argument is essentially that, yes, she said these things, but they didn't mean what they plainly appear to mean. That's a difficult position when the language is direct and the pattern consistent. You can't repeatedly mock someone, celebrate manipulating them, and then claim you were acting out of fear. The involvement of other A-list celebrities like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Bradley Cooper also raises questions about whether they knew their names were being used as leverage in a power struggle.
I'll also note that these newly released messages also included some communication between Blake Lively and some other really big A-list stars, including Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. We saw here a screenshot of Lively seemingly asking Ben Affleck to take a look at the edits that she'd made to the film.
What stands out most in this situation is the arrogance. Blake and Taylor didn't just manipulate behind the scenes, they documented it and celebrated it in writing. They joked about Baldoni being stupid for falling for their tactics, seemingly confident these messages would never surface. Court filings reference hundreds of pages of material still to be reviewed. These texts may only be the beginning, with depositions, emails, and additional communications likely to reveal even more. With trial scheduled for May 18, 2026, this story is far from over.